Hi, Heather. Thanks for chatting with me today. So you have an impressive background in forensics and e-discovery, and I love that you're in a community engagement role now with Cellebrite. Can you expand on your current role?
Yeah, absolutely. Since joining Cellebrite almost 5 years ago, I've always been trying to be the voice of the community inward to Cellebrite, to let them know where we're missing the mark, where we can do better, what examiners actually need, but then also a voice outward. So this role was essentially Cellebrite came up with, we need this person. And I remember seeing it, and I actually did a personality test with HR to see, would I be a good fit for this? And what do I like? So not only what is good for the community, but what is good for me. And it was a good fit. I got the promotion into the role. And now I'm trying to create a brand new community. We started the 101, and it's just a free place for people to go and belong, to learn, to continue to grow. We're even going to have a mentor page eventually, but just a one-stop hub of all things engaging in digital forensics.
Oh, I love that. That's amazing. And I feel like you're a natural educator, just from what I've seen that you've done. What do you like about that?
So every time, this is where it's interesting. I feel like every time I speak, I learn. And it's interesting because the topics I obviously learn from the research, but I learn from the questions. And even if it's something like I just did at RSA, where you don't get a ton of questions, it's not like people are raising their hands in the audience. I learn from what actually comes out of my mouth. Like I was saying to my husband, I'm like, I said things I didn't even know I was going to say when I started talking. So it's even just understanding how my own mind works. But the best way to stay current is to stand in front of a crowd in this community and talk. And I try to read people's faces. Are they liking the messaging? Do I need to change it a little bit? And I try to do that on the fly to see what's working. Because when someone turns you off, it's just like done. I don't want that to happen. So I try to make the topics engaging so that everyone can walk away and think they learned something no matter what their level is.
And I saw that you have a YouTube series called The Dig For. What kind of discussions do you like to have over there?
Sometimes the evidence isn't on the surface. You have to dig for it. And so dig for is also digital forensics. We have done everything. Alexis Brigoni was my first person on the show, and we talked about his contributions to the community, because sometimes the commercial tools can't do it all. So using the leaps and other tools are very important. And I wanted to draw attention to that. But then I had Patrick Seward on, and he does a lot of work for the defense. But the truth is the data is the data. Like people need to get that out of their systems on letting the narrative speak to you, let the data speak to you so you can state the truth. So we talked about ethics and what is right and what is wrong. And that was a really good topic.
Oh, that's great. And I've watched a couple of them, and I've seen you talk about the importance, like you just alluded to, of letting data speak for itself.
Yes.
And the importance of being objective. How do you do that, or did you do that, when some of these cases can be so emotional?
Yeah, it's tough. And I did a keynote last year at HTCIA, and it was essentially mistakes I've made in 20 years. And I talked about each case, and one of them was me talking about my bias. And it's when I was at Strauss Friedberg. We were working a case for the defense, pro bono, and it was a rape case. And I was 100% sure he did it. And so I was against it. And I remember stumbling upon the evidence in unallocated space of her inviting him over. And I was like, oh no, I'm actually wrong. So everyone does it at some point. It's hard to keep your emotions out of it. It's hard too when someone says, this is exactly what happened. And I'm working some cases right now where we're learning that's actually not what happened. And that's something Jared and I are speaking on at Techno, is when the evidence doesn't speak to you or the narrative doesn't match, it actually can be really interesting, and it's a great time to learn from it. So that's what our whole talk at Techno is about.
Oh, that's great. And can you tell me more about that topic? I know you have two, but can you dig a little more into that one?
So when there's gaps of information on the phone, that can be just as important as when there's all the things you're looking for. Because why was the phone not in use? Everyone has their phones all the time. So when it's suddenly gone, that's just a really interesting thing. So we want to cover key artifacts to look at and things to consider to show the truth on why the device wasn't pinging towers or connecting to Wi-Fi or tracking location. So going through those things and piecing it together to try to help people think outside the box on investigations, because criminals are getting smarter. They know what we're doing with phones and watches. So they're taking these devices off and not including them in the crime.
And I know you're speaking in another session at Techno this June. It's called AI or Real, Forensics on AI Artifacts. Tell me more about that one.
It's hard. I'm not going to lie. We're still in the midst of the research because I was hoping it would be a little more clear than it is. And even last night I was thinking through, okay, this is what I'm going to try to dive my research into now. But the RSA thing and the sextortion and all the things that are happening, and people are using AI to create it. So we just want to try to find tips to give law enforcement clues on this is how you know quickly if it's real or fake, just in case the tools aren't detecting it. So taking all the tools out of it, you need to validate and verify and say, is it real or not? That's what the whole thing's focused on. So Android, iOS, we picked the most popular apps. We paid for them so that you can remove watermarking, tried to make it as realistic as possible.
Wow. Okay. That couldn't be more timely.
Yes, I know, right? I'm like, and everyone's like, why would you pick such a tough topic? I'm like, because even if we can't do it, we still learn from it.
Absolutely. And then it's sort of a jumping off point, right?
Mm-hmm. And that's a perfect example. Say that Jared and I cannot find a flag or anything in metadata or anything in a database that's saying if it's AI created, someone in the audience may have something and say, have you guys considered this? And then that may lead to like a different round of presentations.
I was going to ask about key takeaways, but you kind of answered it on the evidence side of things and even on this one. Is there anything else you hope attendees take away from your sessions in general?
I want people to always verify and validate. I will always say that forever. I think every talk I've given at Techno over the last like decade plus, it's like, don't trust me, verify. Like, listen to this, but verify. The tools are trying to do a really good job at AI detection, but they can still be wrong. AI is wrong. It's like leveraging AI to find AI. So just understanding where data is stored, how it's stored, what is expected, and then find the unexpected. And I think timelining techniques will be a big part of this because if an app is in use or a browser is in use and then an image is created, that will obviously be helpful.
Okay, good. Oh, wow. These are going to be great. I know you have a lot on your plate and you're talking about AI and that is so timely. Is there anything else you're paying attention to right now in terms of technology with everything changing at warp speed?
Yeah, the biggest thing, I feel like something I'm being asked about nonstop is AI and CSAM and legislation trying to keep up and what to do about that. The sextortion stuff is huge. But other than that, it's still back to like secure chat apps and people trying to get into them and what to do and how does this work. So those are the biggest things. And then anything weird that iOS is doing with 17.4 and changing things and how the data looks. I feel like that is where most of my focus is right now.
So you'll have a ton more to talk about even next year.
Yes. Techno is a conference that I attend every single year. I was thinking about it. Before Techno, when it was Mobile Forensics World, and then it merged into Techno. And even when it was like combined with CEIC, right? Like it was all these things together. I think I've been doing this since I was 24 years old. It's crazy.
Wow.
I was not brave enough to speak yet, but I attended.
Well, that's beautiful. You grew up at Techno. How cool is that?
I really did. So it's something that I truly go to every single year.
Oh, that's great. And then is there anything else you want to share that I didn't ask you about?
We're doing an I Beg to Differ live there. And if people don't know what that is, it's essentially an open platform where you can ask anything you want to. We call ourselves the dream team at Cellebrite. We're all forensic examiners. We have prior law enforcement consulting. Like we do the work every day, all the research. We just sit there and answer any questions you may have on any topic. And I feel like it's raw and it's like real. And it's good because the developers sit in the room and they hear it and they're like, oh, okay, this is a struggle. This is something that has to get better. So it's really good. And that's on Tuesday at Techno.
Oh, well, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.